Welcome into Jungle Tales, a pirate baseball podcast. We appreciate you tuning in whenever and however you're watching or listening, whether it's right now live on YouTube, Facebook, or archived on either of those platforms, or listening to our audio only, aka podcast form on Spotify. You can also follow us on social media on X, aka Twitter, Instagram at Jungle Tales Pod, and then on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, we can be found by simply searching Jungle Tales Pod, a pirate baseball podcast. On this ninth episode of the show, very excited to be joined by the 2024 AAC Player of the Year, and that is, of course, Carter Cunningham. Carter, we appreciate your time this evening.
I appreciate you having me on. I know we've been trying to set this up, so I'm glad we could do it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate the patience tonight. Of course, the Pirates are playing Temple. Got a hard-fought 80-79 win after losing a couple of heartbreakers in their first two conference games against South Florida and FAU. So congratulations to Mike Schwartz and Jay Woodard, knocked down the big shot there in the final seconds. And then the Pirates got a defensive stop and, again, came out victorious over the Temple Owls tonight at Williams Arena Minges Coliseum, 80-79 to improve to 9-7 overall, 1-2 in the American, and will now travel to Memphis to take on the Tigers this weekend. But Carter, like you said, this is something that we've been trying to schedule for some time now. So excited to have you on the show. And like I mentioned, we're just going to start off, back, going back to your childhood. It's hard to believe now. Shout out to Johnny Robertson for this little tidbit here, but this year, with Alex Peltier enjoying the East Carolina program, it's going to be the ninth straight year that the Pirates have had someone from Haymarket, Virginia, of course, going back to Jake Agnos.
Oh, yeah. There's some legends have come out of Haymarket, including the Agnos brothers.
Yeah, and certainly has. And so with that, growing up there, during your high school years playing with the Agnos brothers, and specifically, I guess Zach more so than Jake, and then of course once again at East Carolina. But take us back to those childhood days and days in Haymarket, Virginia. And I know you played more than just baseball. You also played hockey, and was there anything else?
No, I got cut all 3 years of middle school basketball, so that was just baseball and hockey.
Gotcha. So, during your childhood, when did you really develop a love for the game of baseball, and then take us through those little league days? I've heard you talk about it in other shows previously, as far as playing with the Agnoses and all those folks there in Haymarket, Virginia, and all the fun that you have playing little league baseball, and then moving on into I guess some travel ball, and then of course school ball.
Yeah. So I moved to Haymarket in second grade. I grew up in California, so I guess I started my baseball journey there, just t-ball and coach pitch and that kind of stuff. And then when I moved to Virginia, second grade, I sat right next to Zach Agnos in my second grade class, and just gives me chill bumps, honestly, just saying that, because to see where the Lord's brought both of us to where we're at now is pretty special. And Northern Virginia was definitely a really good place to grow up, as far as education, sports, community. It was a really good place to grow up, and I just bonded with the Agnos family right away. Our brothers are friends. Our parents were friends. We're basically family. We do our holidays with the Agnos family and their extended family. They got a big Greek family. And so really second grade, I don't know what age group that would be for Little League, but Zach and I were really never on the same team growing up in Little League. His dad was the coach of the Yankees, and my dad wasn't really big into it at the time. So we just never were able to get drafted to the same team. And except for I think there was 1 year where I got to play with him on the Yankees, and that was my dream. Um, and that was really fun. But yeah, just getting to grow up with that family was a huge blessing because I think Zach and I really push each other to get to where we're at now. And so um, without them, I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. And yeah, and then my family, my brother was a big hockey player, so he kind of got me into hockey, and he was his thing was hockey, and mine was baseball. It was eighth grade year, I broke my collarbone in a hockey game and called it a quits. Figured that baseball was going to be the direction that I would have an opportunity to play college and pay for college with. So yeah, just stuck with baseball around freshman years when I really kind of honed in on baseball and wasn't always. Um, I'll say didn't always believe that I would even play Division One, given where I was at my freshman and sophomore year, just size wise, and I was I was a smart kid in high school, so I was honestly just getting ready to go try to apply to Virginia Tech or UVA and get in. And I don't know what I was going to do for school wise, but probably I just thought that's where my future was headed. But at the time, I wasn't really a believer, and God certainly steered me in a different direction. And I couldn't be more thankful for making me a pirate and all the blessings that came with it.
Yeah, like you said, that recruitment, wasn't what you would have necessarily liked at the time, but and I guess part of that reason, now you look at yourself, you're 6'4", 210, 215 pounds, but I've heard you talk in the past in other conversations just about how much your stature changed, over the years, and from when Coach Godwin was first around you, and until
Yeah,
you had that opportunity to come play baseball for East Carolina.
yeah.
And
So
so kind of walk us through that and your recruitment and who all you considered, and before you ended up choosing the Gardner-Webb Running Bulldogs.
yeah, so I mean, I got to see Jake pitch at ECU when he was here, and Zach and I would we didn't we were playing our own high school season, but I was able to make a couple of the games and saw him pitch in front of 5,000-6,000 fans, and it was like, yeah, this is pretty sick. It would be pretty cool to play here one day. But I knew I just wasn't good enough. Maybe not good enough. Probably isn't the right word, but definitely wasn't big enough to play at a top 15 program at that time. And yeah, sophomore year I was I don't know 5'7", 5'8", a buck 50, maybe. And then going into junior year was really my growth spurt. I shot up to like 6 foot, and then by the time I was a senior, I was like 6'3", but I was still only like 180, so I was kind of just like a tall, lanky kid. Um, and I had the fundamentals, I had the mechanics and all that stuff, and I was a good high school player at the time. I wasn't certainly not still not ready for like a school like East Carolina, and so yeah, Coach Godwin, Zach and I played travel together. It was actually only 1 to 2 seasons we got to play with each other. He was always on the top team, and I wasn't on the top team. I wasn't big enough. I wasn't quite good enough to be on the top team growing up and travel, which might shock a few parents out there because I know travel baseball is an epidemic right now, and parents are wanting their kids to play on these national teams and all this crazy stuff. And so just goes to show that late bloomers are real, and as long as you work hard, put your head down, go to work, trust in the Lord, and He'll make your path straight. But yeah, I just always wanted to go to ECU. Just knew that I wasn't quite good enough, and so Gardner-Webb and George Mason were my only two offers out of high school. George Mason was 15 minutes down the road, and Gardner-Webb was 7 hours down the road. So of course I left my parents and try to get as far away as possible, being the dumb high school kid that I was, and went all the way to Gardner-Webb for a year, and that was actually the COVID season, so it got cut short.
Right, and in that 2020 season, there for Jim Chester with Gardner Webb, and Coach Chester, he had success, I believe, at multiple Division II programs, and most recently Barton College, there in Wilson, North Carolina, prior to heading to Bowling Springs to take over that Gardner Webb program. And you mentioned in the 2020 season, prior to the COVID shutdown, you started all 16 games, and you were named the Big South Freshman of the Year. But then following that 2020 season, you made the decision to head to Florida Southwestern in the JUCO ranks. What all went into that choice?
I honestly, the seniors on my not on my high school baseball team, the seniors on my Gardner Webb baseball team said basically I was it's kind of sounds crazy, but I was too good for Gardner Webb. They kind of pushed me to leave. I was not even considering leaving Gardner Webb, considering that I started all 16 games. I think I was in the 3 or 4 hole, so I was pretty content with where I was at. And at that time, didn't even really have draft aspirations because, again, I was a good player. Just I always was, and I still am super honest with myself. And I don't think less of myself. I'm not going to be a fool and think I'm better than what I am. And so I was pretty just content there. And the seniors on my Gardner Webb team told me to go to Florida JUCO because that's where good baseball was. And never even really considered or even heard of Florida baseball or Florida JUCOs. And so they told me to go there. And at that time actually, I'll never forget this story. We had a strength coach at Gardner Webb. I believe he actually came from ECU. His name was Curtis Whaley. I walked into the weight room one day as a freshman at Gardner Webb, and I think I was 199, and I was 6'3" at this time. So I finally hit my final growth spurt, and he said if I ever walk into his weight room under 200 pounds again, I better be on my deathbed. And so I just kept eating, kept getting bigger, and obviously since that day, actually, I've never been under 200 pounds, thank God. And so I just started continuing to get bigger, and quarantine was actually there was really nothing to do except for lift. So Zach and I hit the weights pretty hard, and at that time I was in the portal, and then I think I was helping the Agnos family move Zach out of ECU, and that's when I ran into Coach Godwin again. They introduced him to me formally, and he didn't recognize me. He knew me in high school as this small talent, decent high school baseball player, and now I was probably 6'3", 205 at that time. So he couldn't believe that it was me, and luckily the Agnos family put in a good word, and I had a good JUCO year, and we were able to make it happen.
Yeah, Florida Southwestern, as you mentioned, top 15 or top 20 junior college program in the country. After your arrival, Nico Agnos, unfortunately, passed away with complications from COVID there in September of 2021, and I just cannot imagine, what that was like from clearly for the family, but then someone like you that was, almost family just because you're right there and growing up with them and spent so many fond memories together.
Yeah, that was a tough time. Not only obviously for the Agnos family, but he was my second father, and as I was honestly, there's truly not a day that goes by where I don't think about him, and I don't really know when this revelation came to me, but I don't know, it was within the past year. I was just thinking about that time and thinking about that season, and my role on that team was just to be Zach's friend, and it wasn't anything more or less than that. It was just to be there for Zach, and didn't matter what I did on the field. What obviously we had a lot of success as a team that year, and I think a lot of that was because we rallied behind Zach and the Agnos family. But my role for that team was just to be Zach's friend that year, and I do believe when I had that revelation that God just put me there for a reason, and that was the reason. And it was a tough year, and I just I was just there for Zach and the Agnos family, and yeah, it was tough. And like I said, not a day that goes by where I don't think about him. But um, that bench out in right field was I'm glad that Coach Godwin and Blake Carter, the director of baseball ops, was able to dedicate that to him, because that's where I would watch games with him when I was watching Jake. He enjoyed his time out there in the jungle, and he introduced it to me, and he was just a special soul for sure, and we miss him dearly. And yeah, it's just a great family.
Yeah, certainly, credit and shout out to Coach Godwin, for the Nico patches on the hat. And then, as you mentioned, you read my mind there. That's where I was headed next with that the bench in right center field, where Nico often, to watch some games and definitely remember, the picture of you out there in right center field, following the conclusion of your Pirate career, I guess it was. But
yeah, that was didn't know that anybody was going to see that. That was
right. It was definitely a private moment that became public, but definitely
yeah, just a way to pay tribute to him. Yeah, I mean, it was like I said, like the I wouldn't have been an EC baseball player without him, and without the entire Agnos family. So yeah, I just knew it was the right thing to do, and I wanted to do it, obviously. And every time I do visit that bench, I feel his presence, and I know that for a fact he does have the best seat in the house right now when he watches the Pirates, and he's going to be ecstatic one day when we do make it to Omaha, and I can't wait to be with him again one day.
Yeah, no doubt. And that moment in that 2022 season, where Zach was so clutch and came up big against the University of Virginia in that regional was definitely one of those unforgettable Pirate moments, through our storied baseball history. But in that 2022 season, as you said, you looked at it like it was, you first and foremost was to be a great friend and teammate to Zach, and but yourself, we definitely saw glimpses of what you were capable of. You hit a few home runs, you had some game-winning runs batted in, and you came through in the clutch at times. Definitely, though, you didn't have the consistency that you would have liked. But after that season, you made that decision to enter the transfer portal, and I was definitely very disappointed when I saw it, and then of course I'm relieved when you made that decision to withdraw your name and return to the program. What all went into that decision?
Yeah, that was just a tough conversation between Coach Godwin and I. Obviously, that season didn't go the way that I had planned it to go, like performance-wise, and the nature of the job is for him is to make tough decisions like that, and scholarship-wise, just wasn't where I needed to be. Being an out-of-state kid, paying for my own college, certainly did not want to leave because I was at my dream school already. Just couldn't afford it at the time. And then he said, just give me a couple days and don't do anything. Don't make any irrational decisions. And so I just kind of laid low. And he came back to me a couple days, and we were able to work some things out financially to where I was able to come back. And obviously God had his hand in that the entire time. And they didn't want me to leave either, for sure. Like I'm definitely not blaming the coaches by any means. It's literally just part of the job. And we kind of both recognize that. And like I said, neither side wanted to depart from each other, but I just couldn't afford it at the time, and the Lord, through people in Greenville, was able to bring me back, and obviously worked out for the best.
It certainly did, and like you said, it was just one of those many unfortunate realities with the Division I baseball and 11.7 scholarships and the way coaches have to make those tough decisions and operate in such a climate. But before we move on from that 2022 season, we got to talk about that 20-game win streak.
Yeah,
Unbelievable. I guess it was right around the midpoint or just over midway through the year. We were right around 500 or slightly above, and you're really going to have a strong finish just to make a regional. Then you reel off 20 straight wins, and you go from the outside looking in to being a national seed. What a ride, and what a memorable experience that had to be.
Yeah, that was incredible. That was a different kind of swagger that team had. Just we knew we were going to show up to the field that day and dominate whoever we played. It didn't really matter if it was the New York Yankees. We had that kind of confidence and swagger about ourselves that truly made it fun to be a part of, and everybody was bought in. Whether you were just a role player or a bench guy like myself at that time, or a role player or whoever. It didn't matter if you're a 3-hole or our bullpen catcher. Like, everybody was just bought into the team, and super fun to be a part of. And I thought the turning point of that year is it was about midway. I believe we won the Sunday game at Cincinnati. It was just a dogfight back and forth, extra innings, high scoring, and we came out on top. And I think from then on is when we rattled off that win streak, and you kind of just feel the momentum back on our side, back in the clubhouse. And and I just think of guys like Bryson and Zach and Ryder Giles, and we just got on their backs. JC had a great year that year, and we just got on their backs, and team was fired up and rallied around them, and just a phenomenal year, and just an honor to be a part of that.
Yeah, like you said, Ryder Giles stepping up, and the way Coach Godwin and Coach Knight, and obviously Coach Palumbo, the way they, had to work through a lot of things that year and do what they did with the rotation, and those guys stepping up, and is just remarkable to not have one of our better rotations from the standpoint of knowing exactly who you're going to each and every time out. But the guys got the job done and took on some very unfamiliar roles, and everything came together as we needed it to, and definitely one of the more memorable rides in East Carolina baseball history to earn that national seed. And a lot of folks, because of certain things that had happened early in the season, didn't think we were deserving of it. But there had definitely been times in the past where we had been deserving, and that team was deserving. And Coach Godwin was very quick to point that out to some very well-known baseball journalists on social media when they indicated that we weren't deserving.
Yeah, of course. That gets the boys fired up, though.
Exactly. And so following that 2022 season, you went to the Valley League to play for the Charlottesville Tom Sox, and what a summer you had. One of the better seasons that a player had for the Charlottesville Tom Sox. Batted over 400, and you played very well defensively also. You had an excellent slugging percentage and hit with a lot of power. What are your memories of that experience, and how that kind of propelled you into that fall and then headed into the 2023 spring season?
Yeah, I think I was just trying to follow up in Thomas Francisco's footsteps that in Charlottesville. He had the unreal year, I think, a couple years before. So I was just trying to keep up with him, but it was really fun. I was with Trey Savage and White Lunsford Shankman that summer, and we bonded and got pretty close. Trey and I actually slept in the same room on twin-size beds, 6 feet apart from each other, so that was quite the experience. We got to know each other pretty well, and I just try to go have fun, and that's what summer ball is all about. I mean, summer ball truly is some of the best baseball memories. It's just a bunch of college guys coming together for a couple months and just having fun, playing every day. That was huge. Consistent at bats. Just kind of got my footing back underneath me and was able to carry that into 2023.
Yeah, that summer ball experience is always a little unique, and that opportunity to live with the host family. On the most recent edition of the show, we caught up with Chris Holba, who pitched for the Pirates from 2016 to 2018, and he describes his experience up in Cape Cod and how unique that was. And he was actually fortunate enough to stay at a couple's house, or they had bed and breakfast within their family for years and years. And I was laughing with him. I said, I know you ate well.
That's right.
In that type of setup.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I might need to become a host dad for the Greenville Yard Gnomes.
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be awesome.
So you talk about, and this is not just specific, obviously, to 2023 or the fall of 22, I should say, but just throughout your East Carolina career, we hear so much about Mission Week. So I guess probably the better thing would be to say, going back to that initial fall, in the fall of 21, describe that experience coming from you had been at the Division I level and then been JUCO. What was that like with the initial Mission Week and the way that transformed you and your teammates?
Yeah, that was quite an experience for me. Your first Mission Week is pretty unforgettable. Don't think I'd really ever thrown up during a workout, but did that a couple times for sure. That first Mission Week for me, and it's as this past year, I knew it was my last one. I was out of eligibility, obviously, after this year, so I just try to have as much fun with it as possible. And somehow, some way, I always ended up on a team with like the most amount of injured guys. So if you were like healthy, you had to pick up the slack for the injured guys, and I don't know how it worked out that way, but I somehow found my way onto those teams. So uh, my teams we would basically have to be doing double at some points. Some of the guys on my team, and I was certainly one of those guys doing double a lot. They tend to pick let's say guys that were in shape, not taking a shot at any pitchers, but the position players tended to be a little bit more in shape. So I had to carry some slack for, especially this past year. Not gonna name any names here. No, but it was good. It definitely cultivates the culture, gets guys fired up, brings us closer together, and something you actually begin to look forward to at the end of your career.
So fast forward to that spring of 23, in 22, as you mentioned, you've been in kind of a spot start guy. You played in 55 games, starting 19. In 23, you played in 65 games and you started over 50. And you really had a great year, back hitting over 300. I think eight bombs, 12 doubles, drove in close to 40 runs. What are your memories of that junior season?
Man, I don't know. That year was a really fun year as well. We didn't have too many seniors on that team. We had Hoover, Spivey, and Saylor. Obviously, some guys got drafted too as well, but that team was it was just a fun clubhouse to be a part of. We rallied around one another pretty heavily. Obviously, any team that Coach Calvin is going to run is going to be a team full of great guys and great culture. So that team was no different, and that was a really good year. Obviously, I think as a team, we probably didn't perform the way we had wanted to, just given the exit from the UVA regional. But no, overall, it was a super fun year that year. Yeah, I kind of found my footing again.
You really did, and of those 51 starts, every single one of them was in the outfield. And one of the things that you knew going into the 2024 season, your final as a Pirate, was that there was a hole at first base. You of course, you had Josh Moreland moving on, and describe that, how everything went down there, that transition from, being, pretty much strictly an outfielder. You had played 5 games or started 5 games at first base back in 2022. So with your flexibility, you had that versatility to make that change, clearly. But give us the Cliff Notes version of a little bit of the day to day, and making that shift from being primarily an outfielder to primarily an infielder.
Yeah, I honestly have to give a ginormous shout out to Cam Clonch here. Probably one of the most selfless teammates I've probably ever will have. One of the most selfless human beings I'll ever meet. He is a tremendous guy, just a tremendous teammate. I felt like he could have fit that role at first base this past year, but being the teammate that he is, just accepted his role and took, he made the most out of the opportunities that he got. But he taught me a lot over there at first base, along with Coach Palumbo, who does a phenomenal job with all the infielders. They made that transition pretty seamless. I actually, Colossians 3:23 says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as though working for the Lord." So, kind of taking that mindset into first base, it was foreign to me at the time, but didn't really matter because I was going to work at it with all my heart, as though working for the Lord. And that's sort of the mindset that I take in whatever I do in life. I'm going to do it and take pride in the work that I do. And so I felt like I became a fairly decent defensive first baseman, which may come as a surprise to some Pirate fans, but it was pretty fun. Just trying to learn that new position.
You talk about Cam Clonch and the impact he had there. If you would, also Jeff Palumbo. I know a lot of credit is to be given there as well, because he's one of the best around when it comes to coaching up the infielders.
Yeah, you look at the track record of ECU's fielding percentage, and it's always top 10 in the country. So clearly, Coach Palumbo is doing something right with the infielders, and he's very very detail oriented. He takes a lot of pride in the small things, and it pays big dividends over the course of a year.
Going into that 2024 season, something much bigger than baseball was happening within the Pirate program. Not only with yourself, but with several of your teammates, Coach Godwin, and if you would describe what a special moment that was, to make that personal decision. You committed your life to Christ, and as a result of that, you got baptized on the field there at Clark LeClaire Stadium.
Yeah. I wasn't part of the baptisms. I had been baptized, but Charlie Hodges, Webb Tyndall, James Shelby, us four kind of got together and noticed that the team was there was a revival amongst the team, and the next step was to get the guys baptized. And so the Lord was very he was moving behind the scenes in that clubhouse, and we had 10 guys get baptized, and Coach Godwin included, and that right there was the ultimate victory before we ever played a game, because this life is but a vapor, and honestly, 5-10 years from now, nobody's really going to care about Carter Cunningham's baseball stats at ECU. So just being able to be a part of something bigger than baseball was special. But all glory goes to God there. He was just moving, man, and it was super fun, and super proud of the guys that took that next step and were bold in their faith and did it on the field. And it was I felt like that team, although we didn't make it to Omaha, we did set a foundation for it. And not that the teams before us didn't. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, in order. I don't want to say that either, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is if we are putting Omaha or anything above God, then it'll never happen because nothing comes before Him. And I think that team really recognized that and took that to heart.
Very well said. And what you mentioned there, really some lyrics to one of my favorite Christian songs, and that is "Casting Crowns." Who am I? And I made a video tribute a couple decades ago, almost. Back, I guess it was in 2006 when Coach LeClaire passed away, with several pictures and video from Coach LeClaire's career, set to "Who Am I" by Casting Crowns, because that song, in my opinion, really summed up who Coach LeClaire was.
Yeah,
and very well said as far as a God, who like who are we, that God loves us, and just the lyrics to that song are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, no doubt. And it pretty just how God works, but pretty fascinating how he truly laid the foundation of what ECU baseball was going to be, Coach LeClaire. And Coach Godwin makes sure that we are a part of the history, that we understand the foundation that was set by him, and how he introduced God into ECU baseball. And it was just cool to see, and obviously the brotherhood that comes with being a part of it. But yeah, man, I mean, nothing comes before him. It doesn't matter. Omaha doesn't matter. Baseball doesn't matter compared to God. I mean, he's got so much more in store for everybody than just a baseball game. So again, all glory to him.
Before we talk more about that 2024 season, a few comments here on YouTube. Appreciate folks chiming in on this first one. It comes from Justin Butts. Justin actually is an umpire on the high school level, also does some small college JUCO games and so forth. But Justin says that they would love to get you to come to Wayne Christian and to give your testimony for our chapel, or for their chapel.
Yeah, I'm always for sharing the word of God. I do leave January 20th, so maybe difficult to get that in. But we can try to set that up.
Yep. And so Justin, definitely connect with Carter on that, and maybe even if it can't happen right now, and like you said, in these 2 weeks, then down the road, I know that's something that folks would really benefit from, God using you in that way with those young people there in Wayne County. And he said, thanks for sharing your testimony. And then John White said that entire Valley League was fun to play, except if you pitch for Front Royal in their bandbox of a park.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that? I'm taking it you do by that laugh.
Yeah. That was I think it was 350 to dead center. So all you had to do was really just hit a pop up and it'd go out. So it was just a boombox and a launching pad. So the hitters loved to play there. I know the pitchers probably hated it.
Yeah, no doubt. And kind of transitioning back to that 2024 season, as I mentioned in the open, you were named the 2024 American Athletic Conference Player of the Year. You hit close to 370, 17 bombs, drove in 66. Also had close to 20 doubles, and you started off the year with a 19-game hitting streak, and you were batting up there well over 450 and clearly having a lot of quality at bats, because I know that's what you were paying attention to, not that batting average, right? And,
that's right.
but Coach Godwin and a lot of your teammates, for that matter, said that they had never seen anyone play as freely as you were playing. And you've kind of already alluded to this, but just explain that, with the commitment you made and committing your life to Christ, and knowing that He holds your future, and
Yeah.
knowing that whatever you're going to do in that specific at bat, he already knows before it ever happens, and how that allowed you to play so freely.
Yeah. You hitting on the head. The story's already written, and that goes with everything in life. I've just found myself to be a less anxious person since I've known God more. He really does. 1 Peter 5:7 says to cast all anxiety onto Him because He cares for you, and that couldn't be more true. And so Matthew 6 also talks about, don't be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient is the day sufficient for the day is its own trouble. Like, that right there is basically telling us just to be present in the moment, enjoy the gifts that God has given us already. At that time, it was my 5th year. It was my last year of college baseball. I kind of knew that I truly was just trying to have a great time with my best friends, and whatever happened, happened. And obviously, a lot of good happened for the team and I. But going back to playing freely, like, there's nothing in this world that we can truly control. I guess you control what you can control in the day to day, but God has it all under his hand, if you want to say. So there's really no need to worry, no need to stress. God's will be done, no matter if you like it or not. His will be done. So just accept that and go out there and have fun. That was my mentality going into it. So nothing I could have done to change the outcome, besides show up to work, put my head down and grind. And like I said, just have fun with my best friends for one more year.
And this next question, don't want to get too far into the weeds here, and there are obviously, so many. It's probably very challenging to narrow it down to just one or two. But thinking back to your time as a Pirate, what were those most memorable times, both as a team and then also individually, as far as some big hits and or plays you may have had defensively?
Oh, good question. Team-wise, obviously, for me was the Texas Super Regional. I did say this on Danny Beal's podcast, but the purple gold chance during that Super Regional was like actually out of a movie. That was bone chilling to think about. That was definitely favorite experience as a team. Even outside of that, just like the hotels, the bus rides with the guys, like that's what I'll remember the most. Honestly, it for a fact is not the wins and losses. It's just hanging out in the locker room, hanging out in the lobby of hotels or hotel rooms, like just that kind of stuff is what I'll remember most. And then individually, that's a tough one. I don't know. I'd say I'll have to think about that one. I remember having a good weekend against Carolina this past year, which was just a fun weekend because obviously we're rivals with Carolina, so we want to beat them pretty badly. But made some good plays in 2023 conference tournament. I remember had a good conference tournament. Ended up not winning that one, so doesn't really matter if you don't win. That's sort of just the mindset of the team. So we're big, obviously, big on just team.
Absolutely, and you referenced that North Carolina series and the awesome weekend that you and the team had. You lose a heartbreaking one-run ball game at Boshamer Stadium on Friday night. Exactly what you would expect with Trey Savage on the mound, from the standpoint of being a low scoring game for the opposition. But then the bats came through on Saturday and Sunday down in Fayetteville, and then also at Clark LeClaire. And what an atmosphere! How awesome that traveling series is for college baseball. not only within the state of North Carolina, but also nationally, because East Carolina and North Carolina have consistently been top 10 and 15 programs over the last several years. And I just think back to all the years that Clemson and South Carolina had done that. And then East Carolina and North Carolina did it for 1 year under Coach Fox's time at North Carolina in 2018. And then fortunately, Coach Godwin and Coach Forbes are clearly on the same page and plan to do it annually for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and hats off to Carolina for setting that up as well, because that's what grows the game of baseball and grows the love of baseball in North Carolina for sure, and around the country. I mean, to have it on the second weekend of college baseball is incredible. And yeah, like you said, you got two top 15, top 10 programs going at it. I mean, it's fun to be a part of when you're playing in the games, and also for the fans too of both schools. Like, that's what they want to see. They don't want to continue to play teams that aren't going to challenge them and aren't good games. So hats off to Carolina and obviously Coach Godwin for making that happen.
Do you have a most memorable defensive play? Nate Gaminder chimed in on YouTube, and he was wondering.
Most memorable defensive play. Yeah, that conference tournament in 2023. Garrett Saylor had I can't remember if it was a perfect game or no hitter to start the game. And I made a diving play to preserve that, which was like, I say that one as my favorite because obviously it was helping him out. Just trying to do whatever I can to keep that intact. As far as I don't know about anything other than that. I feel like I had a couple of robbed home runs, I think. I can't really remember. I had one against Cincinnati. Hoover and I went like back to back against Cincinnati. That was actually pretty hilarious.
Yeah, Hoove, yourself, and then Riley Johnson's made a habit of it. It was nothing last year to see Riley on the Sports Center top 10 and all over social media. I remember, unfortunately, it came in a loss, but the one that immediately comes to mind is the one he made in the right center gap, right there near the scoreboard against Duke.
Yeah, I mean, that kid he's my favorite player. He's my girlfriend's favorite player, actually, too, which just says a lot. He's incredible. One of the best dudes on planet Earth. I love Riley. He's going to be a stud for us this year, too.
Yeah, with everything that was going on with his shoulders and the way just hearing Coach Godwin describe it, and Coach Godwin would almost get choked up in describing it because of the way the kid laid it all on the line for his team and the Pirate program.
Yeah, and he'll do it again, and he's going to do it again this year. I mean, he's going to run into walls and make diving plays and give his body for ECU, and it's guys like that it makes me proud to say that I wore an East Carolina jersey because of guys like that. And he's like I said, a special soul, and he's going to be a key part to this team and a key leader.
No doubt. So following the 2024 season, you knew that you would probably get a shot somewhere, or at least you were hoping that. It's just a matter of where. And the Toronto Blue Jays took you in the 10th round, and you were actually on vacation, right?
Yeah.
Were you in Bermuda?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So describe those emotions. There you are in Bermuda, and obviously enjoying your time there with your girlfriend, and then you get chosen in the 10th round by Toronto.
Yeah, that was awesome. We were on a cruise. Just got to Bermuda. I know the family had like an excursion plan, but I obviously told them, you guys have to go ahead without me because I got to be on my phone. I can't miss a call. It's like the one phone call that I can't miss. And so they all went. They actually got back. I could have gone because when they or by the time they got back, I hadn't received a single phone call. It was like the 7th round, I think, when they got back. And the phone call started. Essentially, I was staying with my girlfriend's sister's boyfriend. Like, him and I were sharing a room, and so he walked in around like the 8th round, and that's when like the calls started to happen for me. And uh, it was pretty funny. I was kind of getting nervous. I thought I was gonna have to go into the next day, which was fine, but just a lot of moving parts that day, and had it pulled up on my laptop and um, heard my name called, and it was just me and him in the room, and pretty anticlimactic experience because we were just like nice man, like gave a high five and just went to dinner, and people on the cruise obviously had no idea what just happened to me, like nor did they really care. And so it was just like another day. It was pretty funny, but it was a special moment for sure, and awesome that I got to spend it and share it with my girlfriend's family.
Right. And so once you got back and you headed down to Florida, and you I remember on social media seeing, I guess it was on X, or perhaps Instagram, that video of your first minor league hit. What an awesome experience that had to be.
Yeah, that was met the team in Daytona, which is actually like a 4-hour drive, and sat the first game of a doubleheader, which kind of stunk because you get warm and then you sit and you got to sit through a game and then you got to get up again. But I remember my first at bat, I walked, and it was a really good at bat, and I was like, all right, I feel like I'm locked in. And then next AB was a double, and um, I think I finished that game 2 for 2, 2 doubles, and I was like, hey man, this is pretty easy. And then it was like downhill from there. So I got humbled pretty quick, but it was a good time for sure.
And that brings me to a question here, another from Nate Gaminder. He says via YouTube, good to hear your insights on your career. Let us know what's on the horizon for you this year, and moving into the future with the Toronto Blue Jays organization.
Yeah, I got to go down January 20th for a camp. They haven't said where I'm going to start yet, so I can't give you the answer you're looking for there. But just gonna give it all to the Lord, and wherever He wants me to be, that's where I'll be. And I'm excited for sure for my first full season, so we'll go after it.
And transitioning now, back to something that early on in the 2024 season, during that final year as a Pirate, and I know this is something that you had on your heart and mind. Entering the season, how else, how can I allow God to use me and to impact the Greenville community, and not just East Carolina, but all those boys and girls at Maynard's Children's Hospital, and just give back in a variety of ways. And you and your teammates with a big assist, and shout out to Pirate Nation for everything that they did
Yeah.
with all the generous donations. And tell us about homers that help, and the genesis of that.
Yeah, that was it. It was all God. It's God's foundation. The EC baseball team is just a vessel for this avenue that he took us down. But that was incredible. I thought what the guys did with that organization was phenomenal. Obviously, Pirate Nation was, like you said, stepped up in a big way. Very, very generous. The Greenville community is just a giving and generous community, and they they had given me so much, and like you said, at that time, I was just praying for a way to give back, and this is what God called myself and the team to do, and the team responded to it. But like you said, big shout out to the Greenville community for everything that they've done. Not just for me, just um, for this place. I mean, this is a special place. You don't get this everywhere, and that organization, I envision it, and hope and pray that this is going to be around as long as ECU baseball's around. We uh, I went with the team, this year's team. We went a couple weeks ago before Christmas to hang out over there, and I could tell, although there's a lot of new guys on this year's roster, that there's new guys rallied around this cause, and they're excited for it, and I just appreciate them being open and willing to dedicate their time to something bigger than themselves.
And I believe with the graphic I have on the screen for our viewers, was that the final number? Did it wind up being even more that Pirate fans and others? Because I'm sure there were plenty of folks that contributed to the cause that were not necessarily East Carolina fans, but just loyal to such an excellent cause.
Yeah. Honestly, don't know the exact number right now. That was 50,000 was about after the season had ended, which blew my expectations way out of the water. I don't know what the total's at now. I mean, the link is still active. We're still receiving donations pretty frequently, just from whoever. The link is always open, but yeah, Parker Bird's going to take that over this year, and I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to blow $50,000 out of the water, being given who Parker is and his platform and how God uses him.
You talk about how God's using Parker Bird, and he certainly is. He's also really using Coach Godwin, and Coach Godwin has been very transparent about the shift that he's had in his spiritual life. Over the last several months and a couple years, and congratulations to him on getting engaged, and to Bree Berkowitz and this fall. And just, if you would, tell us what you can about that relationship that you developed with the Pirates' 11th year head coach.
Yeah, praise God for transforming his heart, because he is a different man than when I first walked into ECU, and he'll be the first to admit it. Something only God can do, change a man's heart, and he did that with him. And he's just being a vessel for him now, and a reflection of Christ now. And he'll also be the first one to tell you that we all sin and we all screw up at times, but like you said, he's transparent about it, and he knows he's not perfect, but he does know that there's something bigger than baseball and a calling that baseball can't really give, and that's God's love. And so it's been awesome, just as honestly a friend of his now, just to sit back and experience that and just watch the transformation, and for him to now be able to share that with fans, players, the community is special.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the things I admire is that it's something that you hope, and as a strong Christian, that you do, but it's definitely not easy in his position. At least in a lot of folks' opinion, to make that stand. The way he so openly does, and kudos to him for doing that, and not worrying about any repercussions, because that's the most important thing. And it's nothing that he forces on anyone whatsoever, but it's who he is, and he proudly wears it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And what an honor it is to play for somebody like that. I mean, he sets the standard and he sets the bar high. And so just like I said, an honor, a blessing to be a part of, just play for somebody of that caliber.
And Carter, we appreciate you being so generous with your time. As we begin to wrap up this interview, we'll go through very quickly and what we refer to as a little speed round here. Starting off with favorite baseball movie.
Benchwarmers.
All right. Are you superstitious? And if so, what are those superstitions?
ECU baseball asked me this on Instagram one day, and I said I'm not superstitious, because the more I believe in God, the less I believe in superstitions. So I know baseball is a superstitious sport, but like I said, the story's already written, so there's really nothing I can do to change that.
I agree with you there, and I'm a huge believer in routine, but not superstitions.
Yep.
Favorite restaurant in Greenville?
Ooh, that's easy. Otavola.
That always seems to be a popular answer. Um, Favorite MLB team? I'm talking about your childhood because now it's the Blue Jays.
Yeah, there's a right answer here. It's the Blue Jays. No, I'm kidding. I grew up in California, so the LA Angels.
And favorite MLB player during your childhood?
Vladimir Guerrero, senior. So, not gonna fanboy over Vlad Jr., but if I do get to meet him, I will say that your dad was my favorite player.
And the final thing I have for you is a question that was submitted, by a loyal listener named Tommy Clayton, aka TC, from Roxborough, North Carolina, and he just said, if you were, on the East Carolina coaching staff, how would you sell the Pirate program? What would be your pitch to those recruits?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, the more I've been praying about it too, I think I my dream job would actually be the head baseball coach at East Carolina. So John Gilbert, if you're listening, keep me in mind one day. Um, my sales pitch though would be, I know honestly, I feel like it's got to be the fan base. Like where else can you go in North Carolina where you're going to get a fan base that lives and dies by ECU baseball? Where you have an opportunity to host a regional, host a super regional, play in Omaha every single year. Um, Obviously, you have good programs and programs in North Carolina that make Omaha. You had State and Carolina make it last year, but like our atmosphere doesn't. It doesn't. There's no other atmosphere in the state. Honestly, I feel like even on the East Coast, that even comes close to matching up with the Jungle and ECU. So you want to come play for a chance at Omaha in front of incredible fans, incredible people, in front of a community where they put God at the center of it, then ECU is by far your only option.
Yeah, that was Chris Holb's answer as well. He said back in the, I guess 2015, that when he made that decision to become a Pirate, the fan base was such a huge factor in that. He said it just blew his mind that there had been, I guess, probably 15 or 16 straight seasons at that point that ECU had led the state of North Carolina in attendance, and now it's up to about 25 seasons.
Yeah,
And so often we're right there, or just outside the top 10, and in our atmosphere, yes, we have 6.5 or 7,000 in attendance as opposed to 10 to 12,000 like you have at LSU and some places like that. But no fans are more passionate than the fans at Clark LeClaire Stadium in the Jungle.
that's a fact.
Well, Carter, again, really appreciate the time. Very generous to spend an hour with us. Best of luck in the 2025 season, and we look forward to having you back on the show down the road to talk some Pirate baseball in some regard.
Yeah, no, sounds good. I appreciate what you do for ECU baseball and for getting the word out about the Jungle and how great this fan base is. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Pirate Nation, that is Carter Cunningham. Really appreciate his time tonight. Very generous and sharing from the heart of what his East Carolina baseball experience meant to him. Before we wrap up this edition of the show and conclude things tonight, I wanted to give a shout out to former Pirate pitcher Davis Kirkpatrick. Of course, the ABCA, the American Baseball Coaches Association convention, was taking place up in, I believe it was our nation's capital here last week. And you have Jason Mills, an ECU guy himself, and the head coach of the D.H. Conley Vikings in Hollywood Crossroads, right outside of Greenville. He was giving a shout out there on behalf of the Conley baseball program to Davis Kirkpatrick, who, as an assistant coach, the pitching coach for Brunswick Community College, earned that recognition of the National Assistant Coach of the Year at the JUCO level for the Division II ranks. And then also, here recently, word broke that Jeff Hoffman, it appears that Jeff may be headed to the Atlanta Braves. And so, needless to say, as Atlanta Braves fan, lifelong Atlanta Braves fan, going back to when I was just, old enough to watch games with my dad growing up, who had always been an Atlanta Braves fan, and very exciting to hear that Jeff may be a Brave. We shall see, but things are pointing in that direction. But if you haven't tuned in before, you can find the show obviously here on YouTube. Eventually, we'll be broadcasting live on Facebook as well. That will probably be a few weeks into the season, maybe early to mid-March. And you can also listen via audio-only podcast form on Spotify. On X and Instagram, you can follow the show as you see there on the screen for our viewers at Jungle Tales Pod. Again, at Jungle Tales Pod on X. Also, formerly Twitter and Instagram. But for the 2024 AAC Player of the Year, Cunningham, and the folks here at the Jungle Tales Podcast, we appreciate you tuning in. And as always, go Pirates.